I knew there was some sort of internal shift that needed to happen, but I didn't really know what that meant or what that looked like or what that experience would be like. You are listening to the WELLthy Woman Podcast, and I am your host, business coach, and wellness mentor, Dr. Michelle, and my mission is to teach conscientious women entrepreneurs how to create a life full of health and wealth from the inside out. In this podcast, you'll learn how to elevate your health and implement business strategies so you can awaken your inner power, show up more confidently, and focus on what really matters. Sharing your gifts, better serving your clients, and showing up even more for the people you love. This is today's successful woman, the WELLthy Woman. Hey there, and welcome back to the WELLthy Woman Podcast. I know I'm a bit late in releasing this episode this week, and I think it's kind of funny because it's related to the topic at hand. Basically, I'm about to share some really vulnerable information with you, and that doesn't come easy. So my procrastination side started kicking in. But I know last week I promised you an episode all about your adrenal glands, your stress response, testing, and healing. But like I said, I was super inspired to chat with you about something else this week. And I promise that the adrenal chat will come soon, likely next week. So definitely stay tuned. So in the spirit of gratitude and thankfulness this week, I wanted to share the experience I had last month at an exclusive women's transformational retreat with Caty, Pasternak, and Chiara, Mazzucco. So if you don't know about these women and you are interested in personal development, kind of diving deep and breaking old patterns in your life, then I highly recommend checking them out. I will link to both of their sites in the show notes. That being said, in today's episode, I'm going to share my experience, what I learned, how I have personally transformed, and how I continue to grow and expand each and every day from this experience. So like I said, I've been super hesitant to share this experience because of how life-changing it was for me, and getting vulnerable is not really my thing. It has not been my thing. However, I'm not going to frame that as a limiting belief. So in the past, it wasn't my thing, but I'm ready to open up and share and be vulnerable with you. So anyways, the thing is, after having this experience, I really, really, really believe that everybody should experience something like it because it will literally transform your life. So to start, I'm going to paint a little bit of a background picture for you so you kind of know why I even chose to have this type of experience or kind of embark on this journey. So I've been in practice now for over 6 years. I started as a primary care provider, as a naturopathic doctor, working within the insurance paradigm in Portland, Oregon. And I did that for about 4 years, basically until I was super burnt out. So I had a full practice and was working ridiculous hours and seeing tons of patients who were not following through with their recommendations. And it was literally draining my soul. Like, it was the worst. I wasn't fulfilled on any level. I was not filled with joy. I was not looking forward to my work week. You get the drill. Maybe you've been there in your own experience. So knowing that, I had to pivot. I had, to shift things. I had to move things because I was not happy, right? And so I took an opportunity just across the river in a little town called Vancouver, Washington, where I opened up a cash-based private practice within this amazing wellness community. So shout out to Kendall Hagenson and the crew at Vancouver Wellness Studio. I was there for about 2 years, and with that move, my patient base was quite a bit smaller, but I was a lot happier because what I found was that when patients had skin in the game, in this case, financial investment, they actually took the steps that they needed to take to get better, right? And they did. So in short, this work, in this private cash-based, program-based way of doing things, practice, right? This was way more rewarding because I was not only working less hours, making about the same amount of money, but I was also positively impacting more lives. So that was really, really great. But after, like I said, about 2 years of that, I knew that my soul was wanting something different, something more aligned with my calling, my greater vision, my purpose, and really my passion. And so I took my practice completely online, completely virtual. Now, this is where the fear really, really, really set in, right? A handful of clients followed me, but I was really in uncharted territory. And so I knew that I needed some guidance. And that being said, I joined a functional medicine mastermind, which I'm still a part of with Dr. Sachin Patel and other amazing practitioners. But they are all operating out of a brick and mortar office, which is much different, right? The dynamics are totally different than what I'm doing. So I still needed something else. I still needed more support. And I had done a lot of self-study with online strategies, marketing, sales funnels, online courses, blah, blah, blah. But I was feeling like I was on a hamster wheel. Like I was starting to feel that burnout creep up again. So I realized basically that what I needed wasn't something external again, right? It wasn't another strategy or a sales funnel. It was actually something that needed to shift internally. So really balancing my inner world. Okay, so like kind of talking about how to shift my energy, my clarity, my connection, and also really shedding these subconsciously embedded limiting beliefs that I had been carrying around all of my life because they were literally dragging me down, like for reals. And I can see that so clearly now. I did not see that clearly before. I knew there was some sort of internal shift that needed to happen, but I didn't really know what that meant or what that looked like or what that experience would be like. But anyway, so I knew there was something deeper, right, within me that needed to emerge, basically. Something needed to break out of me. And I knew I needed guidance to get there. So talking about like limiting beliefs, I briefly mentioned that before. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the term limiting beliefs, these are subconscious programs. So they run way deeper than our conscious awareness. They're kind of like thought patterns and perceptions that we've created as protective mechanisms. The tricky part is that they are always running in the background, and they are typically super large and in charge whether or not we like it. So nerding out just a bit, our subconscious mind runs the show about 95% of the time. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. And it's also, on top of that, something like 1,000,000 times more potent or like 1,000,000 times stronger than our conscious mind. Like, let that sink in. It's running the show 95% of the time, and it's 1,000,000 times more powerful than our conscious mind. Pretty wild, right? All right, so back to those limiting beliefs. These typically define our self-worth and our values. So they tend to be things that you don't necessarily realize you're saying to yourself. Things like I lack motivation, or I procrastinate too much, or I don't have time, or I don't have enough money or resources, or it's too late to change, right? Or it's too late to improve my situation, right? Any of those sound familiar? Can you see how these beliefs would limit you from moving forward? If so, I mean, right? Like, that's why they're called limiting beliefs, because they prevent us, because it's basically like you're defining your boundary, right? Like, I lack motivation. Like, that means your limiting belief is like, you do not have the motivation, right? So anyway, back to turning kind of inward, I found Caty Pasternak through Instagram, and I started listening to her podcast and going through all her content. And that's where I actually found out about Chiara. So it turns out they were in the middle of forming this crazy, dynamic, amazing friendship. And when they announced that they were doing this exclusive in-person women's retreat, I had this insane soul pull. Like I knew, like I just knew I was going to be a part of it. I had to be a part of it. There was no question. Like I just knew. Now, Caty is super brilliant with her work around the subconscious mind. She has a strong background in hypnosis and NLP, that's neuro-linguistic programming, and she literally has magical powers. I do not know what those magical powers are, but she's got something real special going on. And then Chiara complements her so well because she's also totally in tune with all the energetics and the woo, but she also has this super strong background in all the online strategy and the marketing, and it's just such a beautiful combination, and they're super fun to be around. So I actually interviewed Caty on my podcast a while back, so if you want to hear that episode, definitely check it out. It's number 58. All right, so I ended up like having an interview with them both because it was an interview process to get into Activate, right? And so we had this interview, and before I knew it, the energy was flowing and I was in, and I was like totally shitting my pants because I was equally nervous and excited, okay? So that's a little bit of a background. Let's dive into what that experience was like what that weekend was like. So a lot happened, but what I really want to focus on is that inner transformation that I'm talking about, because it was literally the most profound experience I've ever had. And even though it was only focused on, I guess, like really focused on during our first full day together, everything else that weekend really related back and brought everything back to that. So let's talk ego death. So if you know the term, you know what I'm talking about. If not, it is the breaking down of the defensive shells and walls that we've created. It is, getting more vulnerable than you could ever think possible with people you don't know, and facing inner demons that you have ignored and suppressed for basically your entire life. I'm not going to go into every exercise, challenge, and experience that we had, but it was painful, like ugly crying, gut-wrenchingly painful, to be honest. Like we were challenged and stretched and ripped apart, but it was done in such a loving, caring, and supportive way that it was like being simultaneously healed. Like it was crazy. Like it's really difficult for me to give it words. Now, I've experienced talk therapy in the past myself. I used to have a lot of anxiety, and I've been through some stuff. But this was something totally different. Like this was deep, intense, emotional healing that resulted in tangible results. And I know that the word transformation gets thrown around a lot, but this experience, like I said, was truly transformational. And I literally left that weekend a different person. I don't know if any of you listeners, maybe one or two of you, have noticed that shift in me. Like there has been a shift, right? So anyway, I learned that my core wounding is the feeling of unworthiness, or I am unworthy. And that is where I identified. And that's how I have identified, or had identified up until then. And being able to identify that, I was able to dive into some inner child healing, especially with Caty's guidance. And doing some crazy soul gazing in the mirror and shit. It was wild. But I came out of that experience feeling more whole than I was before. It was like a piece of me had been retrieved and cared for that hadn't in the past. It was wild. So we also experienced like literal face-to-face criticisms, like people in front of your face, 6 inches from your face, criticizing you, pointing out your flaws that cut to the core. They cut to my core. They were like getting confirmation of all of those little inner voices that we hear, those negative inner voices that we hear that we're like, no, that can't be true. But like hearing someone say that, and then that stirring up those, core woundings, right? And those limiting beliefs. And then on top of that, we had to share our shame, like share things that we were shameful for. And like, I know this might sound crazy to some of you, but I mean, it was wild. It was wild. And as painful as it was, I felt more seen and understood than I'd ever experienced in the past. Like when people see you in all of your imperfection and still love and care about you, like, whoa, that's just crazy, right? I had to, during that weekend, also admit to myself and to these women that my defensive ego self had been taking over and keeping me from living the life I knew I was meant for. I had embodied this Miss Independent and perfectionist to the point where I was literally pushing people away and not taking action. Like those are ego self-defensive mechanisms that I had taken on, and they were limiting me. Literally. So something else I want to say too is just for me, having that experience of a container, a safe container with these strong, powerful women was something I'd never experienced either. Like I've always been that type of woman who's like, I get along way better with dudes. Like I'm more comfortable having, friendships with men. Like I don't really get along with women. And so that was actually another piece that I had to break down that weekend, which was really, really healing for me, just to experience the power of that feminine connection and that feminine support that I was literally, it was foreign to me. So anyways, kind of going back to, that Miss Independent, that perfectionistic ego shell that I had, seeing this pattern and how it had played out over the past several decades of my life lit a freaking fire under my ass. Like I saw that in my face, like it was in my face, and I was done. Like I admitted to myself, I was like, I'm done. Like I can't do this anymore, right? Like I cannot take another step forward. I cannot go another day with this crap lingering and dictating my life and how I'm making decisions and who I'm interacting with and all of that stuff. I wasn't going to let myself play small anymore, right? No excuses, no more hiding, no more stagnation. So another part of the weekend, there was a lot of journaling. There was a lot of soul gazing, which I don't know if you've ever done that before, but really just staring into the mirror at yourself and looking directly into your left eye is what we did, and really seeing yourself. It's a trip. If you do it, you just like kind of get into this trance almost. It's wild. Anyway, so the soul gazing, we screamed into pillows, which I ended up losing my voice after, but it was, again, like just so healing to release all of that crap, all that bullshit that I had been carrying around. And we danced, right? We got into that feminine energy, moved that energy. It was amazing. We released all of that crap that was holding us down. So the interesting thing that I wasn't anticipating towards the end of that first day was like after breaking down all of those walls, right? After all of those like ego shells were literally destroyed. That's why it's called ego death. And holy shit, it's painful. But anyways, after breaking down all those walls, we had to receive. And like, I know that doesn't sound all that difficult, but with a core wounding of unworthiness, like receiving was the hardest part of the weekend. So one of our challenges was to get a stranger to buy something for us that was over $5. I don't know if you can like literally put yourself in that position, but that was the hardest thing ever to do. Like, holy crap. Anyway, I successfully did it, but that whole thing, if you want to know more about that situation, I'll tell you. But anyways, it was hard. It was really, really, really difficult. Yet you turn, like if I were to turn that thing around and someone asked me to buy them something for $5 and I was like at Whole Foods or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, sure, no problem, right? Like it might even make your day to be like, oh, I totally helped out this person, right? But to ask for that, it was so hard. Anyway, so on top of that, at the end of the day, we had 3 solid minutes of getting showered with compliments from these women who just saw you broken down, saw all your wounds, saw all your dirty, dark shadow crap, and they shower you with compliments, like looking directly into your eyes for 3 straight minutes. It was so intense. It brought tears to my eyes. So, I remember thinking to myself, that as uncomfortable as that experience was, that particular day, but parts of the rest of the weekend as well, but like I was hooked. I knew in my bones that inner transformation was the key. Like it was the one thing that I was missing from my personal like health and healing journey. So as you probably know, depending on how long you've been following me, I've done so much, right? Like I've healed my body and reversed my diagnoses of Hashimoto's and PCOS, right? I'm healthier than I've ever been in my life, but there was still something that hadn't been addressed, and it was that inner work. And honestly, I feel like because of all the other work that I've done to heal my body, I feel like like on a cellular level, like all that muck and inflammation and shit, like wasn't blocking that transformation. And if that makes sense, like it was almost like I had a clearer signal to be able to absorb all of that stuff that I was experiencing and actually like do like an alchemy, like basically transform what I was doing into something else. So anyways, I hope that makes sense. But I also want to say that this inner work isn't a one and done kind of thing, right? It's like our health, right? The inner work is a lifestyle. Like it's a daily choice, and I get to make that choice every single day. So like I start my day with gratitude and meditation and journaling and movement to make sure that I don't fall back into old patterns, right? I need to exercise that muscle and make sure that I'm not allowing that shell to reform, okay? And then on top of that, on top of like everything, right, I still have this gift of being in a safe container with these women while I'm integrating and solidifying all of this new information into my system. So I'm still in that experience, which is really, 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 really cool. So I don't want you to think that like, the rest of the weekend wasn't as powerful, because it really, really, really was, but it all kind of dovetailed with that first day. So it was like we did a lot with like business strategy and a lot of other more detail-oriented stuff, but it was that first day that was just like insane. But we were able to those second 2 days were like really important for us to see how our ego was trying to creep back in, and then we could just like nail it and we could deal with it right there on the spot. So it was just like a really beautiful, beautiful process. So is there anything else I want to say? I think that's it. I just want to say, like if you're feeling called to have an experience like this, I definitely have some resources for you. But instead of just popping them in the show notes, which I could do, I want to invite you to DM me. Like, seriously, I want to connect with you. I want to connect with other women who want to be a part of this journey, who want to experience this, who want to be stretched and challenged and pulled out of their comfort zone. Because like, I see you and I want to chat with you. Like, honestly, I want to connect with you. I want you to I want to honor you for like showing up and being ready to transform your life. Okay. So if you found this episode helpful, inspiring, interesting, I don't know, share it with someone you love, please. And I would love to know what you think. So hit me up on Instagram. Like I said, send me a DM or take a screenshot of you listening and tag me at WELLthy Woman _. So that's WELLthyWOMAN _. Otherwise, tune in next week where I promise I will talk with you all about adrenal health, my favorite way to test your stress response, and how to restore adrenal function so you can maintain energy and avoid burnout. All right, take care, and I will chat with you next week. All right, ladies, thank you for listening to another transformational episode. If you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? You know my mission is to help inspire and empower women to share their gifts, better serve their clients, and show up even more for the people they love. So if you enjoyed this episode, leave an awesome review so more women can find us and join us in creating a life of wealth.